Hello, welcome to our weekly Bible reading. The reading I want to share with you this evening is a pretty well-known passage, but it's not really often talked about on its own. What I mean is that it's referenced, especially when we look at the last book of the Bible, Revelation, but we don't often talk about this text on its own. So this evening I thought we could spend a few moments reading and exploring this text and maybe catch a glimmer of something new. And that text is Daniel chapter 7, specifically verses 1 to 18. Daniel 7 is what's called an apocalyptic text. Apocalypse doesn't necessarily mean anything about the future or the end of the world, but it literally means revealed or unveiled. It's a lifting of the curtain and showing us what's behind the reality that we see with our eyes. Daniel's context is oppression. The book exists in the reality of the Jewish people having gone from being conquered by Babylon, then Persia, then Greece, and staring down the barrel of the ever-growing Roman Empire. They went from being a superpower under Kings David and Solomon into a people traded between conquering kingdoms. They're looking for hope that their God and the God of their ancestors is still powerful enough to fight on their behalf. Hope that even though it looks like they're losing, that God is still going to win in the end. What they get in Daniel's vision is that hope. Let's read. In the first year of King Belshazzar of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head as he lay in bed. Then he wrote down the dream. I, Daniel, saw in my vision by night the four winds of heaven stirring up the great sea, and four great beasts came up out of the sea, different from one another. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. Then as I watched, its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the ground and made to stand on 2 feet like a human being, and a human mind was given to it. Another beast appeared, a second one that looked like a bear. It was raised up on one side, had 3 tusks in its mouth among its teeth, and was told, Arise, devour many bodies. After this, I watched, and another appeared like a leopard. The beast had 4 wings of a bird on its back, and 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the visions by night a 4th beast, terrifying and dreadful, and exceedingly strong. It had a great iron teeth, and was devouring, breaking in pieces, and stamping what was left with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that preceded it. It had 10 horns. I was considering the horns when another horn appeared, a little one coming up among them to make room for it. 3 of the earlier horns were plucked up by the roots. There were eyes like human eyes in this horn, and a mouth speaking arrogantly. As I watched, thrones were set in place, and an ancient one took his throne. His clothing was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like pure wool. His throne was fiery flames, and its wheels were burning fire. A stream of fire issued and flowed out from his presence. 1,000 thousands served him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood attending him. The court sat in judgment, and the books were opened. I watched then because of the noise of the arrogant words that the horn was speaking. And as I watched, the beast was put to death, and its body destroyed and given over to be burned with fire. As for the rest of the beasts, their dominion was taken away, but their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. As I watched in the night visions, I saw one like a son of man coming with the clouds of heaven, and he came to the Ancient One and was presented before him. To him was given dominion and glory and kingship, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that shall not pass away, and his kingship is one that shall never be destroyed. As for me, Daniel, my spirit was troubled within me, and the visions of my head terrified me. I approached one of the attendants to ask him the truth concerning all of this, so he said that he would disclose to me the interpretation of the matter. As for these 4 great beasts, 4 kings shall arise out of the earth, but the holy ones of the Most High shall receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, forever and ever. Now, Daniel's context is oppression. But I don't think that the church is at all oppressed in the same way that the Jewish people were. So I don't think that it's necessarily a direct parallel. What I do see is that kingdoms are rising and controlling the world in the way they always have, giving more power and wealth to those who already have it, and using the marginalized as stepping stones in their own climb to superiority. As we as the church are, or at least should be, fighting against this. But it does often feel like a losing battle, doesn't it? So my questions for you to ponder about this text are these. Who are the beasts of our time? For Daniel, they're the empires of his day, Greece and Persia and Babylon and Rome. But who are they for us? Who are they for our time? And as a hint, sometimes the church can be a beast. Second question is, what do we do in our day-to-day lives that either fights the beast or inadvertently props them up? And finally, in light of Easter having just been celebrated this last Sunday, how does Jesus' resurrection fit into this and our story? These are big questions, and their answers are ever evolving. But I want to leave you with the words of the writer and theologian Rachel Held Evans from her book, Inspired. And this is what she says. So when the prophets Daniel and John, the writer of Revelation, envision the empires as victorious beasts or vicious beasts, what they're saying is, beneath all the wealth, power, and excess of these dazzling empires lie grotesque monsters, trampling everyone and everything in their path. And when they depict God as tolerating, then restraining, and finally destroying these monsters, what they're saying is, the story isn't over. Even the greatest empires are no match for goodness, righteousness, and justice. It might not look like it now, but the resistance is winning. Amen.